They say you don't notice the moment your life changes until you look back on it later, dissecting every word, every glance, every little coincidence you ignored. For me, it started with a smile. Not hers, mine. We were at this networking mixer downtown, the kind where everyone's name tag is bigger than their personality. I was there out of obligation, wearing a blazer I hated and sipping overpriced ginger ale, trying to fake interest in blockchain logistics or whatever the buzzword buffet was serving that night. My wife, Claire, had insisted I go. Said it'd be good for my career. Said we needed to be seen. And for a while, I believed her. She was good at that, making things sound noble when they were really just strategy. She didn't come with me, of course. Had some girls' night planned that popped up last minute. I didn't question it. I was still operating under the illusion that trust was the glue holding us together, not duct tape. Anyway, I smiled at someone, this VP from a mid-sized firm who cracked a joke about the shrimp being more rubber than food. It was a harmless, polite smile. But a woman across the room locked eyes with me like she'd just caught me setting fire to my wedding vows. She approached, glass of red wine in hand, eyes scanning me like I was a misprint in a magazine ad. "You must be Logan," she said. "Claire's husband." "Guilty," I replied, cautious but friendly. "And you are?" "Monica," she said, not offering a handshake. "Her yoga friend." Or, well, was. There was a pause. Heavy. The kind you don't know how to fill because you're not sure if it's your turn to speak or duck. "She never mentioned you," I said, half joking. She didn't laugh. "That's funny," Monica said, swirling her wine. "She mentions you all the time. Usually with that same fake smile you're wearing right now." And just like that, she walked off. I stood there, the music buzzing around me, people laughing in circles I no longer cared to be part of. My smile faded. My gut tightened. Something was off. And not in the Hollywood sense. There was no lipstick on a collar, no mysterious phone calls. Just a sinking suspicion in the pit of my stomach and a growing list of things that didn't add up anymore. But hey, that was just the start. I wasn't suspicious yet. Just awake. For the next few days, I chalked Monica's comment up to wine and weirdness. Maybe she was bitter. Maybe Claire dropped her as a friend and she wanted to start a bonfire with the bridge. But here's the thing about suspicion, it doesn't ask for permission. It just moves in, unpacks its bags, and starts rearranging the furniture in your mind. Claire came home that night around 11:15. I heard her heels in the hallway before the door creaked open. "Hey babe," she called, cheerful like a sitcom character walking in from a laugh track. "Fun night?" I asked, pretending to still be watching TV, though I'd paused it 20 minutes ago and just let the screen sit frozen on a frame of two people hugging, a little ironic, I guess. She walked into the living room, shedding her coat. "Yeah, it was good." Monica didn't show up, though. Her car broke down or something. That made me blink. "Monica," I repeated. "From yoga?" Claire froze for a split second. Not long, but just long enough that someone who wasn't distracted would notice it. Unfortunately for her, I wasn't distracted anymore. "Yeah," she said casually, tossing her coat over the back of the couch. "Why?" "Oh, nothing. Just heard her name recently." That's all I said. That's all I needed to say. The look she gave me wasn't panic, it was calculation. She was weighing something, but I couldn't tell what. I just knew the scales were tipping. The next day, I started noticing patterns. Subtle, quiet shifts in the gravity of our life. She changed her passcode. Started leaving her phone screen down. There was more perfume, fewer explanations. Less eye contact. More girls' nights. And those yoga classes? I called the studio. "Hi," I said, doing my best impression of a man who isn't unraveling. "I'm trying to book a class for my wife, Claire Brennan. I think she usually attends Tuesdays and Thursdays." A beat of silence. "I'm sorry, sir," the receptionist said, "but we don't have a Claire Brennan registered here." "Are you sure it's the studio?" I was sure. I was sure. That night, I didn't confront her. I didn't rage. I didn't flip tables or storm out like a bad scene in a worse movie. I just made a quiet promise to myself. If there's something going on, I'll find it. But not yet. First, I had to wait. Because the truth? The truth always likes to show up late. But it always shows up. It happened on a Sunday. You know how Sundays are supposed to be slow, peaceful coffee, errands, maybe an argument about where to order takeout? This one started like that. Quiet. Deceptively calm. The eye of the hurricane if I'd known better. Claire was in the shower. I was doing laundry, not because I'm domestically gifted, but because I wanted to check the pockets of the jeans she'd tossed in the hamper. Call it paranoia. Call it gut instinct. Call it the moment before everything goes sideways. And there it was. A receipt. Not from Whole Foods or the gas station or anywhere a married woman has a right to be on a Thursday night. No. This was from a hotel. A boutique one downtown. A place we'd stayed at once for our anniversary. Same room number. Same bed. Same damn view of the skyline she once told me looked too perfect to be real. The timestamp? Thursday night. 8:42 p.m. She told me she was at dinner with her coworkers. She came home late, hair damp, said it rained. But the receipt didn't lie. And just like that, I stopped lying to myself, too. I didn't confront her right away. No theatrics. No gotcha moment. I folded the receipt back up, slid it into my wallet, and smiled when she came downstairs in her robe, asking if I wanted pancakes or eggs. I'm good, I said, sipping my coffee. Just gonna head out for a bit. Errands. She kissed me on the cheek. Same kiss as always. But now it felt like a prop. Like something you'd buy at a party store to make the illusion complete. I got in the car and drove. Not to the hardware store, or the bank, or anywhere on her mental map. I drove to that hotel. The concierge was polite. Professional. Didn't ask why I needed a receipt reprint. Just smiled and handed it to me like he was giving directions to hell. Hope you enjoyed your stay, he said. I didn't, I replied. But I think she did. He tilted his head, confused. But I was already walking away. When I got home, Claire was folding laundry, humming. Like nothing had happened. Like we were fine. Hey, I said, tossing the hotel receipt on the table. This fall out of your robe pocket? She froze. And that was it. No excuses. No fake gas leak. No ghost stories. Just silence. And then, the line. The line I'll never forget. I didn't want you to find out like this. No apology. No remorse. Just damage control. You didn't want me to find out at all, I said. She looked away. The silence between us stretched so tight it might have snapped if we both breathed too loud. Finally, she said it. I didn't think you'd take it so personally. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because if I didn't, I might have broken something. Personally? Personally? My wife cheated on me and acted like I just overreacted to lukewarm coffee. I stood there for a moment, then walked upstairs. Not to pack. Not yet. But to plan. Because if she wanted a story where I played the fool, she should have checked the script. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even slam the door. Instead, I did the one thing Claire never expected. I stayed calm. She probably thought the storm would come quickly and pass even quicker. Maybe a few nights on the couch, some cold shoulders, then eventually a shrug and a sweep under the rug. Classic marital survival strategy. But I wasn't interested in surviving. I was interested in remembering. You see, when someone you love betrays you, there's a brief moment, just a flicker, where your heart tries to protect itself by rewriting everything. Your mind tells you, maybe this is the first time. Maybe it was a mistake. But deep down, your gut already knows. And mine had been screaming for weeks. I started taking mental inventory of every odd behavior I'd brushed off like lint. Her weird mood swings. The new lingerie tags I found in the trash but never saw in the bedroom. The sudden obsession with Pilates, despite the fact she thought yoga pants were suffocating leg prisons. And the smell. There's a kind of perfume you don't buy for yourself. It's the kind you wear for someone else's approval. I waited a few hours before I said anything else. We were in the kitchen. Claire sat at the counter with her laptop, typing furiously like work might erase guilt. I stood at the sink, rinsing a plate we didn't eat off of. You love him? I asked. She stopped typing, but she didn't look up. I don't know, she said. The most honest thing she'd told me in weeks. Who is he? More silence. His name's Drew, she finally said, almost whispering. He works in strategy. I met him through the firm. Married. Divorced. Kids. None. And then, the part that was supposed to sting. It just happened, Logan. God, they always say that. Like cheating's a natural disaster. It just happened. Like her pants tripped and fell into someone else's intentions. I dried my hands with a dish towel and turned to face her. You done with him? She hesitated. Long enough to answer the question. I don't know, she repeated. That's when I smiled. Not a warm one. Not even fake. Just a cold, quiet smile. Because now I knew where we stood. Claire thought this was a conversation. What she didn't realize was it was the opening statement in a silent war. The next few weeks were chess. She thought I was in denial. She thought my silence was weakness. But I wasn't ignoring it. I was observing. Every late meeting, I wrote it down. Every lunch that ran too long. Every night she came home with a phone battery at 3% and excuses at 100%. I logged it. I made myself smaller, quieter, played the role of a man too broken to care. Meanwhile, I was copying files from her laptop to a drive so small I could hide it in a breath mint tin. Reading text threads she forgot to delete from her cloud backup. Photos. Calendar invites. One stood out. Hotel Blue, Thursday 7:30. Same suite. That suite was getting more foot traffic than our living room. So I got organized. I started transferring funds into a private account I'd opened 6 years ago, one Claire didn't know existed. Back then, it was just a place to save for a secret anniversary trip to Greece. No, it was my war chest. I hired a private investigator. Clean-cut guy, retired military, looked like he ironed his shoelaces. He called me 2 days in. Your wife's got a routine, he said. And it's not subtle. He wasn't kidding. She was practically writing a handbook. Same hotel, same nights, same car parked out front, Drew's. And here's where it gets interesting. Turns out, Drew wasn't just divorced. He was recently divorced. As in, 6 months ago. As in, his ex-wife listed adultery in the court filings. Guess whose name came up? Claire was the co-star in a sequel no one wanted. And me? I was done watching. One Thursday night, I told Claire I had to drive out to a client's site. Overnight thing, I said casually. I'll be back Friday afternoon. She barely looked up from her phone. Just nodded and said, okay. Be safe. I didn't go anywhere. I sat 2 blocks from Hotel Blue, parked under a flickering streetlight, watching through a pair of binoculars I hadn't used since the one time we went birdwatching 5 years ago. She hated it, by the way. Said nature gave her allergies and trust issues. At 7:46 p.m., Claire walked in. By 7:51, so did Drew. And by 8:03, the light in Suite 214 went dark. My phone buzzed. A message from the PI. He was up the block in his own car, watching too. Got all we need. Want me to send you the photos? No need, I typed back. Save him for the lawyer. Because here's the thing Claire didn't know. That secret account? I'd been using it for more than a PI. I had retained a divorce attorney. A good one. The kind of attorney who didn't blink at affairs, who viewed betrayal as leverage, not lament. That night, I came home. The house was quiet. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was drowning in it. I walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, sat at the table, and smiled again. Because I wasn't broken. I wasn't lost. I was just getting started. The thing about betrayal is that once it happens, everything before it gets tinted in its colors. Memories feel like lies wearing Halloween masks. Even the good times rot under inspection. But I didn't have time to mourn. I had work to do. Claire still thought we were in a holding pattern. A marriage under construction, as she once called it during one of her late-night TED Talk monologues about growth and rediscovery. Meanwhile, I was gutting the foundation and preparing for demolition. Friday morning, I made us breakfast. Eggs, toast, black coffee for me, vanilla almond milk latte for her, extra cinnamon. Her favorite. She came downstairs looking like someone who had slept deeply and sinned better. Her smile was almost convincing. You didn't have to make breakfast, she said, sliding into her seat. I know, I replied. Felt like being nice. She raised an eyebrow. Suspicious. But not enough to ask questions. She took a sip of her latte. This is really good. Glad you think so, I said. And that was that. Married people can carry conversations built entirely out of lies and half-smiles. It's a skill you don't realize you've developed until you're forced to use it every morning. My attorney, Carlin Gwynn, was the kind of woman who could file a motion with one hand and dismantle your entire moral compass with the other. She met me in a private office behind a bakery. She said it kept clients calm to smell sugar cookies while they discussed the death of their marriages. Carla didn't waste time. You have evidence, finances, motive, and she's in active contact with the man. If this goes to court, you come out with the house, most of the assets, and, depending on the judge, spousal support from her instead of to her. That good with you? Very, I said. Then let's move, she said, sliding over a thick folder. I'll draft the paperwork. You don't serve her yet. That's the last move. Let her think the board's quiet. And in the meantime? I asked. She smiled. We gather more leverage. I kept playing the part. It was disturbingly easy. Claire and I started going on walks again. She suggested therapy. I agreed with fake enthusiasm. We sat in a small, sterile office with a potted plant that looked plastic and a counselor who had a voice like warm milk. Claire, he said softly. What do you need from Logan to feel safe in this marriage? She paused, tilted her head, thought deeply, like she hadn't just spent Thursday nights in hotel sheets that weren't ours. I need emotional presence, she said. I need him to show me that I matter, that he still wants me. I nodded, rubbing my chin. That's fair, I said, and I want to rebuild trust. I really do. I should have won an Oscar. A week later, I made dinner reservations at the same restaurant where I proposed. White tablecloths, low lights, candle in a glass jar on each table. Claire wore a red dress I hadn't seen in years. You remembered this place? She said, a touch of nostalgia in her voice. I remember everything, I replied, and boy, did I mean it. Over wine, we talked about travel. Italy maybe, Greece, a second honeymoon. She talked about restarting. I nodded and said all the right things. But in my jacket pocket, I had a flash drive. It held every damning photo, text thread, timestamp, and screenshot the PI had collected. Not for Claire. For Drew. You see, I knew Drew's company. Knew his name. Knew who his boss was. Who the compliance officer was. Even the board members. And I knew one more thing. Drew's employer had a strict morality clause in their code of conduct, especially for employees in strategic partnerships who dealt with government contracts. Adultery with a client's spouse? Not great for optics. I drafted a letter. Professional. Concise. Accompanied by the drive. Dear HR officer, please find attached evidence of Mr. Andrew Russell's ongoing affair with Claire Brennan, the wife of Logan Brennan, who is a consultant for company's client. This conduct directly violates the ethics and non-fraternization clauses outlined in your employee handbook, see sections 4.2 and 7.1. Please consider this a formal concern raised in good faith. Sincerely, a friend of integrity. I mailed it from a different zip code. No return address. No fingerprints. Not even the envelope glue had my DNA. I used a sponge. Let Drew explain that at Monday's staff meeting. At home, I acted like nothing had changed. Claire started treating me like a man worth fighting for again. She cooked. She laughed more. Even held my hand on the couch. Why? Because Drew stopped calling. Cold turkey. Text bubbles she stared at for hours never filled in again. One morning, I accidentally saw her crying in the shower. I knocked gently. You okay? I asked. Yeah, she sniffed. Just allergies. Must have been the scent of consequences in the steam. And then came the day. The legal packet was delivered to her office. She opened it between meetings. My PI confirmed it. She sat there for 20 straight minutes, frozen. Divorce proceedings. Full breakdown of assets. Evidence listed as Exhibit A through L. Petitions for primary ownership of the house and full financial audit. That night, she came home late. Eyes red. Said she had a stress headache. I made her tea. She sipped it quietly and asked, why now? And I just stared at her. Long quiet. Then said, because you didn't think I would. Claire didn't speak much for the next few days. Not because she didn't want to, but because the reality of consequences is louder than any apology. She tried the we can work this out angle. The it wasn't serious spin. She even cried on the staircase one night, right where I used to sit when I came home late, and she was still up waiting. But now she waited for texts that didn't come. Drew had gone ghost. Corporate had launched an internal investigation. His LinkedIn quietly updated to seeking new opportunities. I didn't gloat. I didn't have to. Claire wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid I had already left. And she was right that I didn't keep the divorce quiet. Not out of spite. Out of principle. Claire had built an image. Perfect wife, supportive partner, career powerhouse. Our friends thought she made me better. What they didn't know was, I was the one picking up the slack while she played house in someone else's sheets. So I told the truth. Calmly. Without embellishment. When Sarah from her book club asked, why are you guys splitting? I said, she was seeing someone. Repeatedly. I found out. I've chosen peace. That's it. No gossip. Just facts. The silence that followed was worth more than any victory lap. Her parents? Furious. At her. I don't even know who you are anymore. Her father said at mediation. Logan was the best thing you ever had. Claire looked like a glass sculpture trying not to shatter. But it was too late. She broke that version of herself a long time ago. She fought for the house. Hard. Told the judge she needed stability. I offered her the condo we jointly owned in the city. Better location. Fully renovated. But no, she wanted the house. the one with the fireplace and the garden she never watered. So I let her have it. What I didn't mention was the balloon mortgage clause I'd quietly refinanced after she stopped paying attention to our finances. She didn't even notice the new paperwork mixed into the junk mail folder she never read. 6 months after the divorce, she'd either have to refinance it at a much higher rate or sell it. And guess what? Drew wasn't around to co-sign. The divorce finalized on a Thursday. The lawyer shook my hand and said, "Most guys want blood. You just wanted freedom." She wasn't wrong. But I also wanted her to learn. One last package was delivered to Claire's office a week later. Inside was the hotel receipt, a printed email chain between her and Drew, and a copy of a card she once wrote me. "You'll never have to question my loyalty." I added a sticky note on top. I didn't. Until I had to. She never responded. Didn't need to. I moved 2 states away. Took a job that paid less, but let me sleep at night. Bought a modest place with quiet neighbors and a porch just big enough for 2 chairs and 1 dog. Some days I think about what happened. Not with sadness. Not with rage. But with clarity. I loved a woman who became a stranger. I fought to save something she had already burned. And when I finally let it collapse, I found something better than closure. I found my own damn self. Sometimes the cruelest revenge is becoming everything they assumed you'd never be. So no, I didn't destroy her. I just outgrew her. And that's a far sweeter ending than she ever deserved.